I didn't hit record. Let's do that again. Is it recording? Okay. Um, no, thank you for that. So we were talking earlier over here. There are many forms of being a voice for the animals and helping animals, right? Outreach is one. That's what we're going to talk about today. But there are other ways that we can help animals. Obviously, one way is to provide, a sanctuary for them to live out their lives in peace and with love. So that is a form of activism. We also do, disruptions and protests and pressure campaigns, education-based activism or outreach, lobbying the government. There are many ways to get active, many ways to get involved. This is one way. We're going to talk about the form of outreach today, but it's not the only way. So if you're interested in being a voice for the animals, I invite you to learn about all the forms of activism that are out there and try them all, because you might surprise yourself. You might think that something's not for you, and then you try it once, and I'm speaking from experience. There were certain things that I didn't think I would ever do for many reasons, and then I did them, and I was like, wow, this is amazing, and I kept doing them. So don't cut yourself short. Try everything if you want to be a voice for the animals. Outreach is very important. It's one of the most important, in my opinion, because we're always outreaching. When anybody finds out that we're vegan, they want to know why, or they start asking questions, or they might start feeling a little bit triggered, just the fact that you exist and are in their presence. And so we need to learn what is the best way to respond to people when they ask us. And obviously I don't have all the answers, but like I said, this is 10 years of experience. It's what I've learned, is what I've seen work and what doesn't work. And we continue to improve. I'm sure 5 years from now I'm going to be a much better outreacher than I am today, but I feel that I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've seen what I used to do. It was very frustrating because it didn't feel like I was getting through to anybody. I wasn't getting anywhere. And it wasn't because of my lack of effort or passion. It was because I didn't have the tools. I didn't know what worked. And through activism and through other activists and kind of learning what works, we started to kind of mold ourselves into activists that are effective. And I see it nowadays. We do street outreach all the time, and people literally go vegan on the spot all the time, with me and with others in the community. And I'm going to show a video here later of two people going vegan on the spot. So you'll see some of the strategies that we use to help them make the connection. That is ultimately the goal in outreach, is to help and to want to help somebody make the connection. We're not out there to debate. We're not out there to be right. We're not out there to prove somebody wrong. If we do those things, we're going to feel good about being right and showing how they're wrong, but it didn't help the animals. Because when you enter into an argument and a debate, the person that you're arguing with is trying to strengthen their position. They don't want to give in most of the time, right? And you're trying to strengthen your position, and it's a debate, it's a fight, it's an argument. When I started doing outreach, I used to think, man, I'm going to go out to the streets and talk to complete strangers and try to challenge their morals and change their beliefs. And that seems like a tall task. Like, how are you going to change somebody's values and belief system? That seems very difficult, right? And it is. But then I learned that that's not actually what we're doing or what we're supposed to be doing. We're not out there. Whenever you talk to somebody, you're not trying to change their beliefs, because their beliefs mirror your beliefs. And you'll see me later, but usually what I say is, if you ask 100 people randomly on the street, excuse me, I'm doing a survey, are you for or against animal cruelty? I'm using the word cruelty right now on purpose, only the word cruelty. Are you for or against animal cruelty? I'm asking 100 people and I'm doing a survey. Are you for or against animal cruelty? Okay, I ask 100 people. What do you think they're all going to say? 100 out of 100 are going to say against, unless you run into a psychopath. Okay, and if you do, you step away. But honestly, like, everybody is against animal cruelty. Everybody claims to be against animal cruelty. Well, I'm against animal cruelty too. So now, do we have opposing beliefs? No, we have the same beliefs. We both believe that animal cruelty is wrong. So once you get that mindset, it becomes so much easier to approach somebody and to talk to them, because you're no longer with that tall task of trying to change somebody's beliefs, because you're not trying to change their beliefs. You are trying to change their actions to align with their own beliefs, not with yours, with theirs. People are so conditioned, me included, right? I went vegan 10 years ago at the age of 42. I never thought about this. I never considered it. If it ever crossed my mind, I blocked it out. I just thought that's just the way it is. But at the end of the day, people share our values. So I always tell people, listen, vegans get accused all the time of shoving our beliefs down your throat. Well, I'm not shoving my beliefs down your throat. I'm shoving your beliefs down your throat. They're your beliefs. We share the same beliefs. Animal cruelty is wrong. Unnecessary harm is wrong. Killing somebody is wrong. We share those beliefs. So once you understand that, it makes it so much easier for you as a voice to be able to speak on behalf of the animals, because it doesn't seem so daunting anymore to have to try to convince somebody to change their values or their belief system. We are just trying to change their actions to align with their own values. And because they're not consciously aware that their actions are not aligned with their values, they continue living the way that they've been taught their whole life. They never question it. But as soon as they recognize that their values are here and their actions are over here and they're not aligned, once you help them recognize that, they have a better chance of making the connection and going vegan. We all know what making the connection here means, right? For me, it was literally like wires in my brain connecting, and then I had an epiphany moment. I had an aha moment. And many of you maybe had that, maybe some of you haven't, and that's okay. But for me, it was an aha moment. And we are trying to get people to that aha moment, like, oh my God, I never thought of this. I never seen it this way. But now I do. And now that I do, now I have a real choice. Before that moment, they didn't really have a choice. They did, but they didn't know they had a choice. They just were living, right? But now that they know, they can't use the excuse of, I didn't know, because now you know. There's only one valid excuse to not be vegan in this world. Only one. And that is, I didn't know. I wasn't aware. I was conditioned. I never thought about it. That's the only valid excuse. But once you know, you can't use that excuse anymore, so how many valid excuses do you have left? Zero. You don't have a valid excuse anymore. So now, once they understand that, you challenge their character. Okay? I say this on the streets to people, and you'll see later. Now that you know, now that you get it, because we've had this conversation, and I believe that you understand. Before this conversation, I'll grant you the benefit of the doubt that you weren't really consciously aware, but now you are aware, now you know. Now you understand. Okay? So now that you understand, what are you going to do about it? I'm just sharing what I've learned. Doesn't mean that I'm right. Doesn't mean it's just from experience. I've seen what doesn't work and what works. Okay, so just take what I say and understand that it's coming from a place of like it's based on tried and true methods. You may disagree with some of the things I say, and that's okay. We don't have to agree on everything. But your disagreement might change after you do this for a while and start to see that maybe what I said actually does work. And that's okay. We don't have to agree on everything. But again, everything's my opinion, and it's based on experience and what I've learned over the years. Okay. So I mentioned, so outreach, I said earlier that we're always outreaching as vegans, right? Even if we don't consider ourselves activists, we're always having to defend ourselves for being vegan, right? Well, that's an opportunity for you to be a voice for the animals. And the animals, they don't have a voice really, right? I mean, they do have a voice, but nobody's listening. And so we are their only shot at animal liberation. We are their only chance to create a vegan world. And all this is a social justice movement, right? So veganism is about, well, we'll talk about what the definition is, but it's important to be a voice whenever you can. If you can come out and be a voice, great. If you can't, whenever you have that opportunity, now you're going to have the tools on how to be a voice for the animals. Because if they could, they would be their own voice, but they can't. So we have several forms of street outreach where we talk to strangers on the street. One of them is called Anonymous for the Voiceless, and we hold the Cube of Truth, and we show slaughterhouse footage. Well, not just slaughterhouse, but all forms of exploitation and cruelty to animals across all industries, whether it's for food, clothing, entertainment, testing laboratories, etc. So we're showing these images, very graphic images, on the public streets, and people walking by, and when they stop and are like, what's going on here? Why are you showing me this? And they're telling us they're open to a conversation. We approach them and we have a conversation. We outreach them. And the goal is to help them make the connection so that they can go vegan immediately. We also have We the Free. We just started a new chapter. We, meaning Kimberly, just started a chapter in South Florida for We the Free. Is another organization who also does street outreach. They have a little different approach, where you offer somebody that's walking by, you don't tell them what's going on, but you offer them a prize to watch a 3-minute video. And in that 3-minute video, they get to see all of the slaughterhouse and all of that kind of stuff with headphones on a laptop. And then after they're done, we have an outreach conversation with them. So it's all outreach, right? Julian also does a projection of truth. I think that's what you call it. Projection of truth. So he sets up a projector like this on the streets. He shows all the footage, and then we have conversations with the public. So those are different forms of street outreach, but they all have the same goal. So whatever you learned today is not just applicable to street outreach, but it's just applicable in your daily life. Okay, so these are a few pictures from some of our AV cubes of truth. We're having conversations as people are watching the footage. It's so powerful. It's very different to have a conversation like this without the context of what's happening. But when you are having a conversation with somebody while they're watching the footage, that's very impactful. It's very, very impactful. Okay. Here you see Andres with your values are here, your actions are here. Right? You'll always see me do that at Cubes or at any outreach event. I'm always trying to help people understand that it's their values and their actions are not aligned. I tell people the only difference between a vegan and a non-vegan is that a vegan's actions are aligned with their values. That's the only difference. There's no other difference. We're not that different. We have the same values. We share the same beliefs, except my actions are aligned with that. That's it. And it's not because I'm better or none of that. It's just because I was fortunate enough to make the connection because somebody helped me understand that. So now, like, we are trying to help them understand that. Okay? You can see some of the reactions as people are watching the footage. We get that all the time. People can't believe what they're seeing. Maybe for some people, it's the first time they've ever seen it. Okay? Thank you for that. Now I lost my train of thought. Where was I? Thank you, Holly and Chris. Okay. All right, so I want to start by, okay, I don't want you to say this out loud. I want you to either take out your phone and answer the question. If someone asks you, why are you vegan? What would be your answer? Don't answer. But I do want you to either put it in your phone or remember it for later. Okay? Because I'm going to ask you again later, and it's very important for you to answer this question right now. So be very specific on how you would answer. So imagine somebody asking you, why are you vegan? How would you answer? Okay? So let's take 30 seconds, put it in your phones if you like, or remember it. There's a comedian that answers this question. He said that he went vegan because he had too many friends. But it's a great answer, but it's not the right answer. Yeah. No, he had too many friends. He wanted less friends. Yeah, that's a joke. All right, are we good? Did everybody write down their answer? Anybody need more time? Okay, we're good? All right, we'll get back to that later, okay? In order to answer why are you vegan, don't you think you need to know what it means to be vegan? It's hard to answer something if you don't even know what it means. And I'm not saying you don't know what it means here. But it's very important to really know the definition of veganism. There are so many definitions out there. People make up their own. People think it's this. People think it's that. It's very important to understand the concept of veganism in order for you to be able to answer why you are vegan. Okay? So what is veganism? Let's define it. Now, this is a multiple choice question. You guys are going to see some answers. If you see the answer, don't answer it, especially like veteran activists, you know. Just don't answer it right away, okay? So what is veganism? Is it a diet low in cholesterol and saturated fats? A gluten-free, organic, low-fat diet? A meatless, dairyless, egg-free diet? Both A and C? Or E, none of the above? All right, gesundheit. Okay? Now we can ask. Anybody for A? Don't be shy. B? Come on. C? All right. D? Okay. Did you raise your hand? E. I haven't gotten to E yet. Any other D's? Okay. And E, none of the above. Okay. So don't feel bad if you answered any other question. It is E, none of the above. Say, what? Okay. Now, I'm talking to a bunch of activists, or some of you are new, so you may not know. So this is why it's good that you're here. This is a slide presentation that I do at universities for non-vegans, okay? Right now, I'm actually doing a workshop for vegan animal rights activists, but I also do presentations at universities where I present to non-vegans and I help them make the connection, right? So this is one of the slides that I use. And because they don't really know, people are raising their hands at A. They don't really, some people actually raise their hands at B, some people C, and then when it comes to D, everybody raises their hand, right? And then I say, well, okay, it's actually E, none of the above. And everybody's like, say, what? Right? Okay, so that's funny when I do it with them. Obviously, you all know a little bit more. Okay?
It's still funny.
It's still funny. All right. But okay, so why did I make that point? Because when I first started doing outreach, I would focus on health and food and diet. Because that's what we all kind of like, were pushed this idea that veganism is a diet, right? Diet is a big part, you know, in terms of like, you know, people consume animals 3 times a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So it's obviously a big part, but it has nothing to do with diet. And why is that? And this is very important for us as activists to understand, because if we don't understand this, we cannot communicate the message effectively. We confuse people, and we are not helping them make the connection if we don't understand what veganism is. Okay? Now, there have been several definitions of veganism over the course of decades, you know, with the Vegan Society and Leslie Cross. If you go back to the 1940s, there are different definitions. I heard you, Rich and Patty, in your podcast recently define it this way. And I think this is how I've been defining it, but I literally took your verbatim, okay? And it's very simply this. Veganism is a moral principle which rejects all forms of exploitation and cruelty to non-human animals, okay? There's a lot there, so let's take it step by step. Veganism is a moral principle. Okay? It is not a diet. It is not a lifestyle. It is not any of that. It is a moral principle. Now, can you be 90% vegan with this definition? You can't have a 90% moral principle. You either have it or you don't. Can you be almost vegan with this definition? Can you say, I'm going to go vegan January 1st with this definition? If you say, I'm going to go vegan January 1st, you don't understand what veganism means. You either get it or you don't. You either understand that it's a moral principle or you don't. There is no such a thing as almost vegan, mostly vegan, 90% vegan. Those things don't exist. And when people tell us that all the time, oh yeah, I'm 90% vegan. I don't blame them for saying that because they don't know. It's not their fault. Nobody told them what it means to be vegan. They see vegan on the menus at restaurants next to pescatarian, vegetarian, vegan. So they assume it's a diet. Right? Vegan burgers, vegan ice cream, vegan this, vegan that. It's all based on diet to them. Well, there's a statistic that says that 84% of vegans go back to eating meat. What does that tell you? Does anybody want to chime in? What do you think that means? Go ahead, Nicole. They weren't vegan. Now, that doesn't mean you don't know what you're talking about, you're an idiot, you're not vegan. No, it's not their fault. It's not their fault. They didn't really know what veganism meant. If they see it as a diet, usually people go on a diet for what reason? Lose weight or health benefits or whatever. Well, how long do those things usually last? Not very long. Not very long at all, right? Maybe 3 days. Okay? The point is that when you see it as a diet and you're doing it for your own personal benefit, you'll never, it won't last, number one, and you're not technically vegan. Because if you see it as a diet, let's say you're on a vegan diet for your health, and you only eat plant-based, you don't eat any animal products. And at the zoo, they have a vegan option in the menu at their little stands. And so you're eating a vegan sandwich at the zoo. Are you vegan? No. Why? You're at the freaking zoo where wild animals have been, their freedom has been taken from them. A vegan would not support that. So it's very important to understand that veganism is a moral principle which rejects all forms. All forms. It's not just food. It's not just clothing. It's not just entertainment. It's not just testing. It's any form that humans exploit animals. Okay? So it rejects all forms of exploitation and cruelty. And I put "and" in caps. Why? You might hear, if you've been in the movement long enough, a certain group of activists are focusing on exploitation. And they're actually telling other activists not to use words like cruelty or suffering, because it's not about that. Because they're using the Leslie Cross definition of veganism, which doesn't include cruelty or suffering. It just says exploitation. Here's the problem that I have with that, and this is why this is not a sanctioned workshop by anybody. This is my workshop, and I use things from various different organizations or whatever. But it's very important that people understand that cruelty is a big part of it, and I'll tell you why. And I had a discussion with ChatGPT the other day. Okay, I encourage you to do the same. ChatGPT, my ChatGPT is vegan. I asked ChatGPT, if you were human, would you be vegan? And ChatGPT responded, based on what I know and understand that it's a social justice movement, it's about the rights of animals, I definitely would be vegan. That's what ChatGPT answered. Okay? Now, what's that? Yeah, that's okay, but my ChatGPT is really smart. Okay, so I want to stress this. I want to stress this because it's very important. And I'll tell you why it's important. The word exploitation, or the definition that only uses the word exploitation, could be technically correct, but it's not as effective as combining with it and cruelty. I'll give you an example. If a hunter goes out in the wild and hunts an animal and kills them, and the animal doesn't suffer, doesn't feel any pain, and they got a clean shot, and the animal just died and didn't even know that that they died. Zero suffering, zero any of that, right? The average person, would they see that as exploitation? No, right? What is exploitation to the average person? But they are taking advantage by killing the animal, right? But what's that? Okay, so the way that I see it is most people, I believe, understand exploitation as forcing someone to do something against their will for your benefit. Forcing somebody to do something. So like forced labor against their will for your benefit. Well, a wild animal lived their whole life in the wild. They weren't forced to do anything. They just did. They were not forced to do anything. And then they were killed. To most people, that's not going to be exploitation. If you see a hunter out in the wild and they're about to kill an animal, you're not going to be like, don't exploit that animal. The hunter's going to be like, what? What are you talking about? Right? It's not exploitation to most people. So because killing animals in the wild is not vegan, why don't we include that in the definition? Why are we excluding certain things and just including exploitation? Even though some activists might argue that killing a wild animal in the wild is exploitation because you're using their body for your benefit. But most people don't see it that way. So I think it's very important to use words like cruelty and suffering. Also because most people don't really grasp exploitation. If you ask somebody, like I say, I always say this out in the public, if I ask 100 people on the street, excuse me, are you for or against animal cruelty, what do you think they're going to say? People can relate to that. They can understand those words. If I go out on the street and say, excuse me, I'm doing a survey, are you for or against animal exploitation? They're going to be like, they're not going to know how to answer because they don't know what you mean. They don't know what you mean, okay? So my perspective is always this. Do I want to be right or do I want to be effective? What do you think is better? Effective, right? Now, if I want to be technical and right, then I should only use the word exploitation, according to some. Well, but that's not going to be effective. Did you have a question? No. Okay. Cassie's the only one that can ask questions. Okay. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay. So why is cruelty? Cruelty to me encompasses everything. We could actually take the word exploitation out and only say cruelty. Why? Because exploiting somebody is cruel, is it not? So actually, we can only use the word cruelty, and I would be okay with that. Because whenever there's an injustice, taking their life without them even knowing, there's no suffering, no pain, no nothing, that's an injustice. They didn't want to die, they wanted to live. That's cruel. They may not have known that you were being cruel, but that's cruel. So cruelty encompasses everything. So I encourage everybody to use words like cruelty and suffering. Okay? To non-human animals. This is not about humans. Even though humans are animals, veganism is about non-human animals. Now, does that mean that we should exploit humans? Does that mean that I'm pro-human suffering? No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that. Veganism is about non-human animals, period, end of story. It's not about humans. Okay, the animals, when we say animals, we obviously are referring to non-human animals. They deserve a voice separate from human injustices that are happening around the world. They deserve a movement for themselves. Doesn't mean we can't be a voice for other injustices. It doesn't mean that we can't fight for other things that we care about. That's not what it means at all. It just means that the animals need their own movement and a voice. Okay? They deserve that. They're the most innocent beings on the planet. They are the most oppressed beings on the planet. It's not even close. It's not even, now, this isn't a competition. All injustices are wrong. All injustices are wrong. But just to give you an understanding of the disparity between these injustices. In human history, since the beginning of time, how many humans have been killed in war? Does anybody know?
It's like 10 billion?
How many?
I don't know, maybe 5.
No. 500 million. Boom. Since the beginning of time, since the absolute beginning of time, 500 million humans have been killed in war. 500 million. Okay. How long does it take to kill 500 million animals in this day and age? Does anybody know? An hour and a half. We kill 500 million animals every hour and a half. And we, okay, not we, right? We're not part of that we. But humanity, as a species, kill 500 million animals every hour and a half. Meanwhile, 500 million humans have been killed since the beginning of time. So that gives you a little kind of like grasp of how big of an injustice this is. Okay? And they deserve a voice. Okay. Now, I want everybody to look at the screen. Same question from before. If someone asks you, why are you vegan? What would be your answer? That was the question before. So let's change would to should, now that you know clearly what the definition of veganism is. If someone asks you, why are you vegan? What should be your answer? So nobody say anything right now. Did anybody's... Well, I want you to think about what the answer is now and write it down if you want. We'll take 30 seconds. Okay, are we good? All right, did anybody's answer change from the first time I asked this question to now? Don't be shy. Raise your hand if anybody's answers changed. Okay? If anybody would like to share what your first answer was and what your second answer was, that'd be great. If not, no big deal. Anybody? Bueller? Yes.
So I said, first one I said, I'm vegan for the animals. As soon as I learned what happens to cows, the dairy industry is separated from the farm and support that.
Mm-hmm.
The second answer is vegan for the animals.
Perfect. Perfect. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't also say the first part, but it's very important for people to understand the big picture. You can talk about specifics, and you can talk about what led you to veganism, okay? But at the end of the day, so I'm going to give you an example. People claim to go vegan for the environment, okay, or claim to go vegan for health. Then they learn about the animals, and they agree, and they stay vegan. The environment or health brought them on a path to veganism, right? When did they actually go vegan? When they went vegan for the environment, or when they went vegan for their health, or when they understood the definition of veganism and stayed vegan, quote unquote, stayed vegan for the animals? It's great that people find paths. I think the environment is an important topic, and we had a zero waste night tonight, and maybe not zero waste, but we significantly reduced waste thanks to the request to bring your own plates and silverware or whatever. So all those things are important. Health is also important. But at the end of the day, if we go back to the definition of veganism, it doesn't say anything about environment or health. Zero. Okay? If I eat potato chips and French fries every day for the rest of my life, I'm technically vegan, right? I'm doing it for the animals. Well, how good is my health going to be? It's not going to be very good. And I'm going to die, and people are going to be like, aha, the vegan. And it's not because I was vegan that I died, it's because I didn't nourish my body, right? You can be an environmentalist with zero carbon footprint and kill an animal in the wild and eat that animal. Great, you're super environmentalist, but you're not vegan. Right? Veganism is about the animals. Justice for animals. And what's important is that the message that animals deserve respect and have a right to exist free from human oppression, that message is strong enough by itself. It doesn't need the health and environment aspect to it. It doesn't need that, because the message that they deserve respect and have the right to exist free from human oppression is a strong enough message in and of itself. It doesn't need anything else added to it. In fact, when you add to it, you're watering down the message. You're saying, well, it's also good for the environment and for your health, so therefore you should do it. Because the animals having rights is not that strong. But if you combine it with all these things, now it becomes really strong. No. No. The message that animals deserve respect and have rights is strong by itself. It doesn't need anything else. We got to get that message through to people. Okay? All right. So is your answer based on the definition of veganism? If not, try again. So whenever somebody asks you, why are you vegan? I think that you should answer. And it doesn't have to be in these exact words, but this is how I answer. I'm vegan because I stand against the exploitation and cruelty to animals, and I live in alignment with that. Because just rejecting that idea isn't enough. You can reject it all day long, but if your actions don't match that, what matters, your words or your actions? Your words don't matter, your actions do. So you reject the idea that animals are here to be exploited for us, and you live in alignment with that. Okay? All right. So why are people not vegan? Why do people resist veganism, and when do you think people go vegan? So the first one, why are people not vegan? Why do you think people are not vegan? Somebody want to answer? They're lazy?
Not making the connection.
I'm sorry?
They're not making.
They're not making the connection?
They don't know what vegan is.
They don't know what vegan means?
They think it's a diet that they have to restrict all their stuff. It's overwhelming.
They think it's a diet and it's restrictive and it's overwhelming. They've been conditioned. They just don't care. Okay? All right. I'll tell you what I think. Okay? I think people are not vegan because of what some of you answered. They were born into a non-vegan world. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. When you understand that it's not their fault, you can't judge them. You can't blame them. So when you have a conversation with somebody, knowing that it's not their fault, how can you judge them? How can you have to approach people and give them the benefit of the doubt because you're trying to help them make the connection. If you're frustrated with somebody because of whatever reason, you're not understanding that they're just not vegan just because they were born into a non-vegan world. They were conditioned their whole life since they were babies. They grew up eating animals and wearing animals and using animals, and they never questioned it because everybody's doing it. They just thought it's just the way it is. Our education system tells us we need protein from animals. We need calcium from cows. We do need protein and we do need calcium, but we don't need it from animals. So the reason that this is important to me is because whenever I approach conversations, I'm already in the mindset that it's not their fault. And that allows me to have more empathy and compassion towards that person, no matter what they say or do to me. Because usually they're going to get defensive, they're going to say things, and I understand that that's just a defense mechanism because they're suffering from cognitive dissonance. As soon as they are approached with this, there's a conflict in their brain. Okay? And so whenever they have that conflict, they don't know how to react, and then they act out based on human psychological behavior. So it's important to understand why people are not vegan. You just...
Mostly people say, I don't care.
Okay.
Most of my documentation was,
Okay, we're going to talk about that. Okay, because they're lying when they say they don't care. They're lying. And if they really don't care, they're psychopaths. And there aren't that many people like that. Okay? So we're going to talk about that later, okay? Were you vegan your whole life? No? So do you judge your previous self? But why? But you didn't know. You didn't know.
I knew a little bit.
Okay, but yeah. Yeah. Okay, so real quick, just on that note. In order to be effective, it's better not to judge. You got to give people the benefit of the doubt. Because if you start judging them, you're not going to get through because that judgment is going to come through in your conversation. Okay? So, hold on. It's important not to judge in order to be effective. You can judge all you want, but you're not going to be effective. Okay? Now, do I judge people? Of course. But I judge people after they've been outreached. Now, it takes time to process sometimes, right? So I give them the benefit of the doubt. They never thought about this. They grew up in a non-vegan world. They were socially conditioned. It's not their fault. I don't judge them. But now we have this conversation. Now you know you can't use the only excuse that is valid.
I disagree with you because it takes a long time to really understand and to really get, even if you know, it took us 20 years after we read Animal
Because you weren't outreached.
No, we were out.
Right.
No, we knew.
No, I understand.
It took us time.
I understand. It takes different time for different people. I get it. But when we do outreach, we are holding people accountable to their values, and you're going to see the examples and how it works. Going back to the definition of veganism, that doesn't take time to understand if somebody presents it to you. Okay? So once somebody gets it, if they're knowingly choosing to cause harm and to not live in alignment with their own values, they get judgment. But why does that matter? Why do they care about my judgment? They should be judging themselves. Okay? Because who am I? I'm nobody, right? So, anyways, I don't want to spend too much time on that. Why do people resist veganism?
That animal, yeah.
What was that? Change? Okay? It's an unusual thing for them. They don't want to change.
The challenge is their belief system of what they've been told their entire lives.
Correct. They want to fit in with others. All those answers are correct, okay? Why do people resist veganism? My opinion, the main thing, the main reason why people resist veganism, because people resist change. They've been doing something their whole life, and they can't fathom the idea of doing something so radical and so different, because in their mind, it's radical and different. Okay? So those are some of the reasons people resist veganism. And so, yeah, so they resist change. They don't want to be outcasts, right? Who wants to be a vegan in this world? Vegans are the most hated, okay? But but seriously, like, people want to belong. People want to belong. It's so much easier to go to a barbecue and just be like everybody else. You're not singled out. But as soon as you're like, no, I'm vegan, now you feel attacked. Everybody's like, well, and then people start, but what I tell people when I'm out on the streets, what others think of you shouldn't matter. You should do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and you should live with conviction with your values and screw what everybody else thinks. Okay? Why do you think people go vegan? They made the connection. Why? Why? Oh, I'm sorry. When do you think people go vegan? Okay, yeah, they might be exposed to what's happening that they may not have been aware before. Okay. So making the connection. When do people go vegan? When they make the connection. It's that simple. So how do we get people to go vegan? We help them make the connection. It's that simple. It's not complicated. If you can help somebody make the connection, doesn't mean they're going to go vegan, but it's the best chance that you can give them to go vegan. It's the best way to help them. It's the best thing you can do for them. Okay? Okay. What is vegan outreach and why does it matter? So vegan outreach is basically being a voice for the animals. Okay? You are promoting veganism and you're being a voice for the animals. Okay? And why does it matter?
Because it's different when you see it and when someone confronts. Like, they show you how you are a hypocrite. You're not following your own values, and they confront you with that inconsistency. Like, it's you, like, as an individual, as opposed to, oh, it's just a problem like anything else.
Yeah.
There's another problem.
Okay. Go ahead.
Because people need to be held accountable.
Because people need to be held accountable. Okay.
Because they're actually seeing things that they've never thought of. They're seeing it firsthand harm to harm.
Okay.
Because people are participating on a daily basis on something they have. There again, most people are
Right. All correct answers, all good answers. I think it matters because without us, they have zero shot. So why does vegan outreach matter? Because without our voices, the animals have no chance in hell. Nothing will ever change. Okay? All right, planting seeds. When we first started doing outreach, we were talking about let's go out on the streets and plant some seeds. What does planting seeds mean? Getting somebody to think about something, hopefully that seed grows and they go vegan one day. That's what we used to do, or that's what we used to think was what we needed to do. Let's go plant some seeds. This is not the purpose or the goal. If your purpose and goal is to plant seeds, you're failing. Now, when you talk to somebody, you try to get through, they don't make the connection and they don't go vegan on the spot, you give them some information, you say, thank you, have a nice day. What happened? You planted a seed. Is it bad to plant seeds? No. But that is not the purpose and that is not the goal. That is a possible outcome. But you're not there to plant seeds. Okay? You are there to hold people accountable and to help them make the connection so they can go vegan on the spot. Every street outreach that I've done in the last 6 months, I get multiple people, and I'm not trying to like brag or like, oh, look how great I am, because it's not just me, others have done it as well. We have come so far in the last 10 years. We see what works and what doesn't work. And every single cube that I do, or We the Free, any time that I'm on the streets doing outreach, I get at least 1, 2, or 3 people to commit to living vegan on the spot. On the spot. It didn't take 20 years. It didn't take 2 months. It didn't take 3 days. On the spot. And we're going to show you how to do that. Okay, that's the beauty of it. Okay, this is probably one of the most important slides. Well, this is the 4th most important slide. Okay? No, because I just remembered what the next slide is. No pandering. No pandering. Okay? Now, if you don't get it, if you don't understand, okay, then I'm going to try to help you a little bit better, okay? You ready? The 3rd most important slide. No pandering. No pandering. Got it? If you still don't get it, let me help you a little bit more. No pandering. The reason I'm doing this is I'm trying to really get a message out there to you all. Okay? So, if you still don't get it, I'm going to try one more time, okay? No pandering. All right. So what does pandering mean? Pandering means kind of like sugarcoating or saying things that you think they want to hear. Kind of like being a little bit careful. You know, look, when we pander, we're doing the people that we're talking to a disservice, which means that we're doing the animals a disservice. I used to pander all the time because I'm like, and I'm not thinking this like this, but like if I don't pander, they're not going to like me and they're not going to listen to me and they're going to walk away. So I feel like I have to pander, like because I want them to like me so that they can listen. There is no correlation between whether they listen to how much they like you. Zero correlation there. Okay? If you want to be liked, then pander. But you're not going to be effective for the animals, you're not going to help the animals, and you're not helping people make the connection. Okay? So I'll give you an example. People used to come to me and say, oh, I'm vegetarian. I'd be like, oh, good job. Keep going. You're almost there. Now, do I really believe that's a good job? Knowing what I know it's not good enough. I know it's not a good job, but I want them to feel like it's good. That's pandering. How am I helping them by doing that? I'm making them feel good about the choices that they're making. That's not my job. If the animals are looking up at me, they'd be like, this guy sucks. No, I'm serious. If you're not sure about something, pretend you're the animal, look up at yourself and be like, is this guy or is this girl speaking on my behalf the way that they should be? Okay? So I used to be like, good job. Keep going, you're almost there. First of all, I didn't think it was a good job, so I'm lying. You're not almost there because you can't almost be vegan. Okay? So just don't pander. Okay? The approach is pure honesty. The best gift you can give somebody is the truth, is being honest with them. That's the best thing you can do for anybody. No matter how much they don't want to hear it, the best thing you can do is offer them the truth and your honesty. Because they may not like what you're saying, but they will hear the message and they will respect the message. Or they will respect you because they see that you are not pandering to them. So they're seeing that it's more important for you to get the message across than for you to be liked. Now, that doesn't mean I go out on the streets and I'm an asshole. Like, yeah, I want to be liked, but that's not the goal. That's not the goal, right? You want to be respectful, but you want to be bold, and you want to be honest, and you don't want to pander. Okay, veganism is not love or compassion, asterisk. Okay, although it helps. Now, you might disagree with me. Veganism is love, right? The reason that we say it's not love or compassion is because if you don't love an animal, does that give you the right to harm them? No. So it's not about love. Veganism is about justice. Justice. I don't have to love somebody to respect their rights to exist. It's not love or compassion, but it helps. Okay, speak boldly and with absolute confidence. Okay? How do you speak boldly and with absolute confidence? By having the tools to know that what you're saying works. If you don't have the tools, you're going to be a little bit shy, you're going to be a little bit scared, you're not going to know how to answer questions, how to do this, how to do that. You're not going to be confident. And that, the person you're talking to is going to read that, is going to feel that. And they're going to try to overpower you if you don't speak with conviction. You have to speak with conviction. Even if your voice shakes, that's okay. But you have to speak with conviction. And the way that you do that is by being confident in what you're saying. How do you become confident in what you're saying? Having the tools at your disposal and practicing. Doing it over and over and over. I must have had, 1,000 or more conversations. Okay? The more you do it, the better you get at it. But you can develop bad habits, and if you don't recognize your bad habits, you keep doing them. Okay? So you're always looking to improve. Every time I do a cube, I reflect back. What did I do well? What can I improve on? What doesn't work? What really worked? And I take notes. I keep notes, right? Every cube, I keep notes. And then I share it with the group. This really worked. I tried this. I've never tried this before, but you know what? It really worked. I tried it 3 times, and it worked all 3 times. So what do you think I'm going to do from now on? Always going to do it. I tried this. Total failure. It didn't work. Oh my God. Don't ever do that. But I tried it. It didn't work. Okay. Well, I didn't know it wasn't going to work until I tried it. So we're always looking to improve. It's not like we reached the pinnacle of outreach. No, there's still room for improvement. We take, constructive criticism from others within the community. Rich has told me a couple times, hey, you said this, but I was thinking about this. And I'm like, damn, Rich, that's gold. I'm going to use that. Right? Okay. And others have given me advice too, and we give each other advice, right? Okay. Don't talk health or environment asterisk unless responding to an objection. We already talked about this. Veganism is not about health or the environment. People don't care about their health. You can tell me, yeah, they do. No, they don't. We have an 87%, obesity problem in this country, okay? Or overweight problem, whatever. Like people smoke, people drink, people do all kinds of stuff. People don't care about their health. If you're trying to convince them to go vegan because there's a benefit to their health, you're failing. You're losing, wasting your time and energy. It's more effective to get them to understand that animals deserve respect and animals have the right to exist without you oppressing them. Because if you were in their position, you wouldn't want somebody doing that to you. That's a better message. That's a stronger message. Okay? Now, what I do tell people is, listen, if we couldn't be healthy as vegans, I wouldn't be out here on the street trying to be a voice for the animals because we would have to. And I wouldn't have a case. Okay? But because we can, and I usually say something like the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics consists of over 100,000 of the world's leading experts on nutrition. They came out with a position statement that everybody on this planet can live a healthy life as a vegan on a properly planned plant-based diet. So if you're arguing with me about whether or not you can do that, you're not really arguing with me, you're arguing with 100,000 of the world's leading experts. Okay? Most of the time they're arguing just because they want to argue. Okay? All right, reachability and conversation length. Very important. If you're spending 1 hour with somebody, you are entertaining their bullshit, excuse my language, far too long. Because most of the time it's bullshit. And if you are entertaining their bullshit by answering their questions, like they ask you a question, you answer it. They give you another objection, you answer it. They give you another objection, you answer it. They give you another objection, you answer it. And you think you're doing a good job because you're answering every objection. You're not getting them any closer. They're not making the connection. You're not helping them make the connection. You're just answering questions that they can look up on Google. Every question they have, they can look it up. Your job is not to answer questions. Your job is to hold somebody accountable, help them recognize that their actions are not aligned with their values, and then say, now that you know, what are you going to do about it? Now that you know, what are you going to do about it? What's stopping you from doing the right thing? You hold them accountable. That's your job. Your job is not to answer questions. You can answer a question or two here and there, but that's not your job. So reachability and conversation length. If you spend too much time, you should already know that something's not right. Okay? So what is a recommended time? Okay, it can vary. People say 5 to 7 minutes. Some people say 7 to 10 minutes. Some people say no more than 12 minutes. Okay? But my opinion is don't focus too much on that. Just gauge yourself. Am I going on too long with this person? Because every time they give you an objection and you answer it, you're giving credence to that objection. If they say, but plants have feelings, which we get all the time, and you start to answer that question, you're basically saying that's a valid objection. Let me answer it for you. When we know damn well they don't give up about plants. They don't really believe plants have feelings, and they don't really care about plants. So by you answering them, you're giving credence to that argument. It's better to not answer it. And I'm going to show you what I do and what I say. But let's talk about reachability. Okay, if you encounter somebody that's intellectually honest, boom, reachable. They're being intellectually honest with you in this conversation. Okay? They're reachable. You continue talking to them. You help them make the connection. But what happens if you come across somebody that's intellectually dishonest? What does that mean? They're full of shit, is what it means. They're giving you disingenuous arguments. Well, what about plants? Plants are alive. Don't they breathe? That's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's somebody that's being intellectually dishonest. So, they're not reachable, right? Or are they? I don't think you can make that jump based on somebody saying plants have feelings. Okay? Because I've had plenty of examples where people have told me that, and they end up over here on the reachable side. Okay? So you go through a 3 strikes and you're out kind of process. Okay? You don't have to count it in your head. Just just know that if you're going on too long, it's time to move on. It's time to disengage, end the conversation, move to somebody else. So strike one. You give them an opportunity, they give you an objection, you answered it, and then you start to see that they realize that they can't fool you or that you're onto their BS. You've let them know, listen, I'm onto your BS, okay? You know that plants and animals aren't the same. You're full of shit and you know it. I've said this to people. Now, I'm not saying it to create a fight or an argument. I'm saying it because I'm being the most honest I can be with them. My friend, you're full of shit and you know it. Come on. You're being disingenuous. You want to have a conversation? Let's have a conversation. But if you're going to come at me with plants have feelings, then this conversation's over. No. Okay, fine. They realize that I'm onto their BS. They can't with me. So they start to move toward reachability. They no longer give me their BS because they know I'm onto it. Okay? If you discover they're a troll, disengage, abort mission. There's no point in entertaining trolls. You are wasting your time and energy. Out of 100 trolls, I might be able to get 3 over to the reachable side. That's not a good bang for my buck. That's way too much energy for that. I'd rather spend my time with other people because energy, is not infinite, it's finite. So like you lose energy with these trolls and with these people. Okay? So don't spend your time, as soon as you identify a troll, don't spend your time with them. What is a troll? Somebody that says, but plants have feelings? That's not really a troll. That's just their cognitive dissonance, not knowing how to react, and they're giving you some kind of BS. Give them a chance. Let them go to strike 2. A troll is somebody that will come and eat a burger in front of your face while you're doing outreach. A troll is somebody that's trying to get under your skin. A troll is somebody that is saying, I can't wait home to cook some bacon. That's a troll. Do you think you're going to be able to outreach them? No, they're not reachable. So why bother with them? Don't even answer them. The best thing you can do with a troll is ignore them. Because if you respond, especially if you respond emotionally, you gave them what they were looking for. You gave them what they were looking for. Don't do that. Okay? So just ignore trolls, and that's it. Now, sometimes with trolls, what I'll do is I'll either ignore them or I'll say something, not because I'm trying to get through to the troll, but because there are other people around who are hearing this troll making these comments. So you know what I'll say to a troll so that other people can hear? I'll be like, my friend, you can't hurt me with those words. You can't hurt me. You know why? Because I'm not the victim here. I'm just a voice for the victims of your abuse. I'm just a voice. I'm not the victim, so you can't hurt me. So now I've responded in a way that's not emotional, that they weren't expecting. Okay? All right, so then you go to strike 2. You give them another opportunity. Maybe they're reachable. Okay? Strike 3, you're out. I'm not spending any more time with you. And I'll tell people, listen, my friend, no, that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to argue or debate. I'm here to help you understand, and I'll literally say this to people. I'm here to help you understand that if I was on the street asking people if you're for or against cruelty and I came across you, what would you say? Against, right? So you're telling me you're against animal cruelty, but you need to understand that you are responsible for the cruelty that you see on these screens. So how can you be against it while at the same time being responsible? That's my job. My only job here is to help you recognize that. What you do with that is up to you. I'm not here to argue or debate. Okay, I've already answered 3 of your questions. It doesn't seem like you're getting it. Please have a nice day. Carry on. I disengaged. And maybe that took 7 minutes. I'm not spending 20 minutes with somebody that's not reachable. I have a video later that I'm going to show that is 17 minutes long. There were 2 people and they were both reachable. They both went vegan. It's okay to spend more time with people that are reachable. Don't be worried about the time too much. But also don't be talking for an hour with somebody, whether they're reachable or not. Okay, why versus how. So y'all get this, right? Does this make sense? Okay, why versus how. When we're doing outreach, sometimes we want to offer help, like how to go vegan. Like, you can order this at the restaurant, or you can do this, or you can do that. You're telling people how to live vegan. That's great, but it's not helping them make the connection. Okay? You can help somebody on how to live vegan, not how to go vegan. They've already said they're going vegan. Now you can help them on how to live vegan. But don't focus on how to go vegan. Okay? The how is not important. The why is what's important. They need to understand why they have a moral obligation to live vegan. The how, guess what happens with the how? Once they make the commitment and understand the why, the how falls into place on its own. They will figure it out. People are smart enough to figure it out. They don't need our help for the how. They need our help for the why. So if you're spending too much time on the how, again, time and energy spent and wasted. Okay? So focus on the why. There are 3 core principles when doing outreach, and this comes from AV. Okay? If there's anything that you remember tonight, besides the no pandering, is these 3 core principles. Okay? When we first started doing this, we used to complicate outreach. It's not complicated. It's very simple. Okay? Number 1 of the core principles, holding non-vegans accountable. That's the number 1 principle. That's what our job is as a voice for the animals, is to hold people accountable when we're doing outreach. Okay? Number 2, putting non-vegans in the victim's position. That's the number 2 principle. Why is that so important and so powerful? Because people will really get it when they put themselves in the position of the victim. Because guess what happens? Anytime they give you an objection, you can answer that objection, okay? But you're not helping them. The better way to help them is this. My friend, I hear what you're saying, but if you were in their position, would you accept what you just said as a justification to slit your throat? Would you? No, you wouldn't. Okay, so there's your answer. I don't need to answer the objection. I just need to put them in the victim's position. Then they will realize that, wait a minute, I would not be okay with, okay? So when somebody says, we've been doing it for thousands of years, I can start to respond to that objection and say, well, we've been doing other things for thousands of years. We've been raping for thousands of years. We've been murdering for thousands of years. It doesn't make it right. Slavery has been going on for thousands of years. Those are all valid and good ways to respond. But you're entering into a debate and an argument kind of like situation. It's better to say, in my opinion, it's better to say, my friend, if you were in their position and somebody said, we've been doing it for thousands of years, would you be like, he's right, they have been doing it for thousands of years. Go ahead and slit my throat. No, if you were the victim, you wouldn't accept it. You would be like, I don't give a shit that you've been doing it for thousands of years. Don't kill me, please. Right? So that's the best way to reach them. If you start answering questions, okay, that's fine, but you're not really helping them. And it takes longer. What I just did took 30 seconds. Putting them in the victim's position, very powerful. Okay? All right, number 3 of the core principles. This is not food for thought, it's a call to action. We're not here as a food for thought. Well, thank you for listening to me. I hope you go vegan one day. I hope you think about this. I hope you try. That's not why we're here. We're not here for people to try. Okay? You either get, this is how I talk to people on the street. My friend, you either get it or you don't. Because they'll tell me at the end of the conversation, so, what do you think? What are you going to do about it? Oh, yeah, I'll try. I'll reduce. All this kind of crap. Okay? Okay. If you think you're going to try, first of all, that's not why we're here. We're not here for you to try, right? If you think you're going to try, then I failed you as an activist and I failed the animals because you can't try veganism. You either get it or you don't. Do you get it? Yes or no? If you don't get it, tell me which part you don't get so I can help you. Because you can't try that moral principle. You either get it or you don't. And if you get it, you have to live in alignment with that. Because if you don't, this is what I tell people. I'm doing a survey. Are you for or against animal cruelty? 100 people. They're all going to say against. Okay, their values. Their actions are here. And I ask people on the street, okay, if your values are here, your words are here, your actions are here, You say one thing, but you do the exact opposite of what you say. What does that make you? A hypocrite. Everybody answers a hypocrite. I don't call them a hypocrite. They call themselves a hypocrite. And I have a short video here I'm going to show you later. Okay? Everybody that I talk to calls themselves a hypocrite because I lead them into that. So then at the end of the conversation, I'm able to say to them, okay, now that you get it, because I believe you got it, I believe you understood. Remember, before this conversation, I'll grant you the one excuse that you had that you weren't aware, you didn't know. Going forward, you can't use that excuse anymore. So now that you get it and you don't have any valid excuses, you have two options from this point forward. Two and only two options. There are no three options. There are only two options for you from this moment forward. You can either continue to live as a hypocrite or you can go vegan. There's no third option. What do you choose? Hypocrite, vegan. When you put it like that, do you think people are going to answer hypocrite? Now, they might answer vegan, they actually don't go vegan, but like you're really getting them to understand that they really only do have two options because that's true. It's the truth. They call themselves a hypocrite, so now they can continue to live as a hypocrite or they can go vegan. There's no third option. It's one of those two. What do you choose? And so what I tell them is like the decision that you make right now, you have a choice. The choice that you make right now will determine your character. It will determine who you are and who you want to be. So you're challenging their character. Who do you want to be? Do you want to be a hypocrite? Do you want to live for the rest of your life as a hypocrite? And we'll look into the future together. Okay? I don't know how old you are, but you want to live as a hypocrite for the rest of your life? And we'll look into the future together. And then they'll imagine themselves as a hypocrite the rest of their life. Nobody wants to be a hypocrite. Or do you want to go vegan? Those are your two options. Okay? All right. How's everybody doing? Is everybody getting this?
Yes,
Yeah?
very good, Juan.
Okay.
Very good.
All right. We're almost wrapping up. Okay. So, what does it mean to hold somebody accountable? You're holding them accountable to their values, not to yours. You're holding them accountable to their values. They claim something, but they're not living in accordance with that. So I always say to them, what do you think matters, your words or your actions? You just told me that you're against animal cruelty. Does that matter to the animals, your words, or do your actions matter? What do you think matters to the animals? They always say actions. So you're helping them understand that their words don't matter. You have to live in alignment with who you claim to be. Because if you don't, who are you? You're not being true to yourself. You don't answer to me, but you do answer to yourself. And I'm sorry I'm picking on you, Marco. You don't answer to me, but you do answer to yourself. And you answer to the victims. Okay, I'm nobody here. I'm just a messenger. Okay, who do you want to be for the rest of your life? Do you want to go to sleep every night knowing that you're a hypocrite? And not only a hypocrite, but that you're responsible for the pain, suffering, and fear that these animals go through? That this is happening because of you? Is that who you want to be, really? Okay. Victim's perspective we talked about. Call to action we talked about. So one of the things that you're going to see in the video, at the end of the conversation, once we've kind of like, we're wrapping up, we've talked about everything we talked about, they call themselves a hypocrite, they get it. One of the things that I always say at the end, and you're going to see in the video, is now that you get it, will you commit to living vegan? And if not, what's stopping you? So now you're opening up the door for them to give you an objection. Now that you get it, what is stopping you? And sometimes I don't say vegan. What is stopping you from doing the right thing? It's more powerful, right? Because we agree that veganism is the right thing, okay? What is stopping you from doing the right thing? Will you commit to living vegan? And if not, what is stopping you? Something like that, okay? So now they have to think, well, what is stopping me? They'll give you an objection. Well, it's too expensive. Or, I need protein, or this and that and the other. Now you can answer those objections, and we'll talk about how to do that, okay? All right. Focus on what you can control. Should we worry about things we can't control? If we can't control them, why are you worried about them? Focus on the things that you can control. So what can you control in a conversation? You can control what you say. You can't control what they say. You can only control what you say. Okay? How you say it, that's something you can control. What you say and how you say it. Things that you are in control of. Who you say it to, again, a thing that you are in control of. If you encounter a troll or somebody that's not reachable, you don't have to stay there. Focus on who you say it to. Why am I going to spend time and energy on somebody that's not reachable? Bye-bye. Have a nice day. And focus on how long you say it. A 3-hour, I used to think that a long conversations meant I had a really good outreach conversation because they sat there for an entire hour and listened to me. That's crazy. Somebody on the street took an hour out of their day while they were walking to talk to me. Man, I must have done a really good job. No, I failed. But I didn't know that I failed. Okay? How long you say it is very important. The message doesn't take that long. It's very simple. My friend, here, let me pick you. My friend, did you know that your actions and your values are not aligned? You say that you're against animal cruelty, but you're responsible for animal cruelty. My job here is just to help you recognize that so that you can start to align, so that you can align your actions with your values. That's my job here. What you do with that information is up to you. How long did that take? I mean, that's, less than a minute. I'm not saying have 1-minute conversations, but the message is very simple. It's not complicated. It's not a complex message. Okay? The reason it takes longer than a minute is because you have to entertain their objections a little bit. You have to help them understand. The video that we're going to watch later, the person that I talked to now, he went vegan in 9 minutes. It took 9 minutes to get him to make the connection. Okay? And then his daughter took another 8 minutes. So it was a 17-minute conversation, but they both committed to living vegan. Okay? So what you say, stick to tried and true principles, avoid distractions, control the conversation. People are always going to deflect. They're always going to try to, let me pick on somebody else. You're outreaching me, okay, and I'm the person being outreached. Well, what is your stance on abortion? Have we heard of that before? Okay. Why do you think they're doing that? Do you think they care about your stance on abortion? No. Why are they doing that? Why are they trying to change the subject? Because they're uncomfortable about what we're talking about. And what are they trying to do? Avoid accountability. They're trying to avoid accountability. They're trying to avoid accountability at all costs because it's very uncomfortable. So what do? They deflect. Yes, not yesterday, 2 days ago, somebody said to me, well, do you believe in God? Okay, if I answer that, I've lost. Because my answer doesn't matter. If I say yes, I lost. If I say no, I lost. If I'm truthful, I lost. If I lie, I lost. What's the best way to answer when somebody says, do you believe in God?
That's not
Okay, kind of. Not answer is kind of in a way, but you are answering, but with a non-answer. What Rich just said is exactly what I said. That's not relevant to what we're talking about here. And the person said to me, it's absolutely irrelevant. God put animals on this earth for us. And I said, my friend, I always say my friend, did you know that there are religious people that are vegan? Did you know that there are atheists that are vegan? Did you know that there are agnostics that are vegan? Your faith and your belief is irrelevant because you could be of any faith and any belief and still be vegan. So me answering that question is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Okay? Abortion. Well, what's your stance on abortion? If you answer that, if you think that your answer aligns with veganism, you lost. Don't answer questions when they are trying to put you on the defensive because now you have to defend yourself. And when you're defending yourself, what are you not doing? Holding them accountable. When you're not holding them, when you're doing something other than holding them accountable, what are you not doing? No. Let me listen to the question. Listen to the question. When you are not holding somebody accountable,
Pandering.
what are, no. I want everybody to listen carefully to the question before answering. When you are not holding somebody accountable, what are you not doing? Holding them accountable. Do you understand what I'm trying to get at? Every second that you're not holding somebody accountable is a second that you're not holding them accountable. So when they throw you with distractions and deflections, they are, I call them masters of deflection. They don't even know how good they are at deflecting. And if you fall trapped to that deflection, you've lost. You've spent more time and energy on something that you didn't need to. So don't answer what your stance is on abortion. It's not relevant. Why? Because there are pro-life vegans and there are pro-choice vegans. So why does it matter what my stance is on abortion? It's not relevant. Well, what about humans? Well, what about the homeless? Well, what about the children in Syria? Well, what about this? Well, what about that? It's all deflection. If you start to answer those questions, you fell trap into their deflection trap. Okay? So we can do some role playing here in a little bit on how to answer those questions, okay? How you say it, be assertive. There's a difference between aggressive and assertive. People will always accuse you of being aggressive. Oh, if you really want to change people, you're doing it wrong. That's not how you get people to change. Again, they're trying to put you on the defensive, so now you have to defend yourself. No, but I'm doing it this way. No. If you start to defend yourself, you lost. People always try to attack you. They always try to steer away from accountability, okay? Being assertive is different than being aggressive, okay? Honesty and appropriately represent the victims. Ask yourself, after a conversation, reflect, like I do, reflect, think about it. Would the animals be proud of how I handled that conversation? Would they say, man, Juan did a good job? Or man, Juan really sucked on that one? Or man, Juan is getting better, he's improving, Think about how the animals are seeing you. Like, are you representing them the right way? Okay, who you say it to? Focus on reachable people. We already said this. Don't waste your time on people who are not reachable. Give them a chance, because you might be like, oh, this person's not reachable. What I've learned is that if I immediately go to that, I have a missed opportunity, because they were reachable, but it didn't give them a chance. Give them one chance, give them two chances. Help them. Try to help them. Okay? Don't give up so easily on people. People will listen. I've gotten people to do a complete 180. How long you say it. Disengage with trolls quickly. Don't waste your time. This isn't complicated. It's not complicated. Reminders.
Well, I think you're good, but...
Not a social gathering. Okay, so when we're out on the streets, if we're there for 3 hours, we need to focus on the animals. We're not there to be social with each other. We can be social before or after. Just a quick reminder. Approach people quickly who are watching the screens. Don't let them walk away. If they start watching the screens, approach them quickly. No handshakes. People always want to shake your hand at the end. You do not shake people's hands unless they commit to living vegan. So the reason that we don't shake people's hands is because we're not trying to validate them not living vegan. We're out on the streets to get people to go vegan. And if they do not commit to going vegan, why would I shake the hand of the person who's exploiting and oppressing, harming these animals that are on the screens? Why would I shake the hand of somebody that has committed to not live vegan after hearing everything? Why would I shake somebody's hand like that? No, you don't shake their hands. They might get offended, but sometimes they don't. They understand. I said, my friend, I can't shake your hand unless you commit to living vegan. You're responsible for this. I don't want to shake your hand. Okay, focus on the why, not the how, and call to action. Okay, so that's pretty much it. This is kind of the steps that you go through, but we don't need to. What's more important than the steps is the concept. Okay, the concept is what's more important. Some of the things that you definitely want to hit every time you have a conversation is you want to make sure you define veganism. If you don't define veganism, everything that you're saying to them is diet related. They're not gonna connect as easily if they're constantly thinking diet and food. Okay? So you have to define veganism. That's one of the most important things that you have to do. You have to make sure they understand what veganism means. Okay? and find a way to get them to understand their hypocrisy without you calling them a hypocrite. This is called the Socratic method. If you call somebody a hypocrite, first, it's not going to have the impact as if they call themselves a hypocrite, because they're going to see you as insulting them, and it's not going to have the impact. So get them to understand their hypocrisy, and get them to, if you can find a way. I showed you how I do it. It always works. You can replicate that, copy, paste, do exactly what I do. I'm telling you it's going to work. If they recognize their hypocrisy, you can use that later in the conversation at the end. You have two choices, hypocrite, vegan. What do you choose? Because there's no third choice. You either live as a hypocrite from this moment on, continue living as a hypocrite, or you go vegan. What do you want? Okay? So then at the end, you say, okay, so what is stopping you from going? Now that you get it, will you commit to living vegan? And if not, what is stopping you? It opens up the door to some objections so that you can help them. Oh, it's too expensive. So you'll see how I handle that in a video I'm going to do. So we're going to watch a 17-minute video. All right. So real quick, I think that with everything that I've said, don't you want to see like an example?
Yeah.
Okay.
This was absolutely.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can we get everybody's attention, please? I think I'm going to get commended here. Go ahead. Hold on.
Only in part.
Okay.
I just want to say three things real quick. One,
Excuse me 1 second, please.
this
Thank
was
you.
exceptional, and as someone relatively new, this is truly the voice of experience. Second thing I want to thank Chris and what they do here is absolutely incredible. But the third thing I want to say is I have seen this twice. I was there when Juan did it, and I reviewed it with Juan, and it's exceptional. But based on the definition of veganism, leaving our dog alone for 2 hours is exploitation.
Okay, all right. See you guys. Thank you. This is in West Palm Beach. This is like a 10-minute video, but I'm only going to show you like a minute or two of it. All right, so if you say one thing, but you do the opposite, and you know it, what does that make you? Hypocrite. Boom, you got it. You won't ever see. No, you called yourself. You called yourself. Listen to who called you a hypocrite. No, do you see what happened there? She goes, now you damn calling me a hypocrite. And I'm like, no, I didn't call you a hypocrite. You called yourself a hypocrite. And she kept interrupting me. Now I have to go vegan. Right? Isn't that powerful? She's basically saying she has no choice but to go vegan. Look how powerful that is. Who called you? You called yourself a hypocrite. You called me out. Okay? So anyways, if you want to watch these videos, they're on the SoFlo Animal Rights YouTube page.